think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ.
And more than that, I would say that just because a person is a Negro or a black American does not mean that he's going to struggle for Negro rights or for jobs for Negroes or anything else. I think that today you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first, and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republicans. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you back controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. And what kind of alibi do they come up with? They try and pass the buck to the Dixiecrats. Now, back during the days when you were blind, deaf, and dumb, ignorant, politically immature, naturally you went along with that. But today, as your eyes come open and you develop political maturity, you're able to see and think for yourself. And you can see that a Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat in disguise.
What's going on, family? How y'all doing out there? This is your host, John, a.k.a. Jay David, and you are tuned into another episode of the Cavalier Convos podcast. Thank y'all for listening. Appreciate y'all being on the episode with us tonight. Got a few of my friends here with me, man. Got some really dope brothers. I got my man Kenny back with us again. What's up, brother?
Yo.
We got Marlon. What's good, my man?
What's going on, man? I can't believe they brought me back, but I'm thankful.
You can't believe it. This guy's funny. And then we got my brother Deshaun.
Yeah, I'm in the building. What's
dope,
goody?
man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, me and Kenny's in the building. Marlon and Deshaun, they on the phone call. But appreciate y'all joining us again, man. I think our first conversation that we had, I thought was very dope. I thought we did a really good job. I think y'all brothers did a really good job in regards to articulating things that we actually need to put into practice as a people. Especially after all, like we've been seeing, as far as the energy out in the streets is good. We got politicians in hiding. The black people, it's funny that black people don't even know when they winning. You know what I mean? It's just like so crazy. Like we so used to not winning that when we're winning, we don't even understand what's going on. We got politicians in hiding. politicians wearing kente cloths and taking knees, cops taking knees, rednecks taking knees, you know what I mean? All types of stuff going on, man. And we've been putting in that work, man. Black society has most definitely been giving that work to the white supremacist society of America. And I think for us as a people, it's a perfect opportunity not to celebrate, but to continue to keep this momentum going. So that's what I want to talk about today, man, the momentum that we have, all the little symbolic, I'd say, things that are happening, and also tangible things that are happening in America with the reaction to all the protests and what I would like to call the Black uprising. I think that's a good term to use. So, before we go ahead, Marlon, introduce yourself, my man. We didn't get to really fully introduce you in our first episode, but, kind of introduce yourself, man. I think the people know Deshaun a little bit already because he was on one of the previous episodes. But go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, brother.
Okay, man. Thank you again for having me back. I'm Marlon, otherwise known as Marlo, formerly of the Intellectual Ignorance Podcast. I like to go by the moniker The Realist. So my thoughts and facts reflect that.
Appreciate you being on, my man. So let's, I guess first let's talk about the show yesterday that the Democrats pulled, what I would call the political theater, the show that the Democrats put on at the Senate yesterday. Y'all kind of give me my thoughts. What did y'all think about that?
So I'm gonna go. I work in corporate America, and I've been doing so for a long time, and you can just see the lack of Black Africans in corporate America, and the decisions that upper management makes at times, it reflects that. Like, there's no one there to say, no, don't do that. No, this looks bad. No, this is not going to go over well. And the theatrics that played out yesterday was indicative of that. There's no one there to say, hey, guys, this is not going to be a good look. And that is part of the issue. It's kind of ironic. It's ironic because that is a major part of the issue. There's not enough of us to say, yeah, no, what you're doing is wrong. So I just thought that it was very, very, telling.
Do you think, before y'all I guess answer this question, do y'all think they care, or do you think it's just complete ignorance?
It's ignorance. I think a lot of them think there's some that I think a lot of them think they're doing something for us. Like, that's the thing. Like, you're gonna see a lot of pandering start to rise up, right? I saw a couple pictures of Joe Biden taking a knee in churches, surrounded by Black leaders and community organizers and pastors. You know what I'm saying? And then I saw some other politics. They're going to pander, but I think a lot of them think that we are on their side because of it. You know what I'm saying? And my thing is, I said to my wife earlier, I'm like, I don't want to see y'all in Kente. I'd rather see a photo op of you sitting in the boardroom signing a bill that's going to benefit or reallocate funds for certain governments or for police departments. Like, I don't want to see Kente call. So it don't matter whether they care, whether they sincere. Black people have to keep their foot on their neck and demand outcomes, demand agendas, demand not just promises, but demand agendas from these politicians. So whether they care or not, I know what I need. I know what my people need, and that's what matters to me, yo. You know what I'm saying?
So, and I may be repeating something that D.L. Hughley said earlier, but at the end of the day, like, I really don't care as long as the work is being done. I think you can tell that with those misguided steps in terms of optics, their hearts were in the right place. And the funny thing is, what we sort of miss with racism in general is when we sort of do the same thing and think that it's okay because we're Black. And there's oftentimes, we do stuff every day where we're basically misappropriating other people's culture. A lot of times we do it, there is no ill intent, but at the same time, there isn't any benevolent intent either. It's just because we like it. And in this case, they were trying to do something in solidarity, which is fine. It's just that it was quite misguided what you were trying to look like. But if you're doing the work, if you are in that boardroom and you're signing those bills, Like, I really don't care. My energy is somewhere else rather than, being mad about what they're wearing and how they're looking in front of the whole world. Like, I really don't care unless they're working. My energy my angst is served better somewhere else.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. In regards to us misappropriating, I don't really have a lot of evidence to see where actually we misappropriate versus when other groups consistently misappropriate and culture vulture and pander to us as black people. Like, I looked at some of these bills and things like that they were, looking at passing. I observed and I looked at some of the language that is used. And, it's okay, but, it's a start. A lot of this stuff is a good start. But I do believe that the Democrats knowingly pander to black people because it's worked for so long. Case in point, Hillary Clinton buck dancing with Roland Martin during her election. Y'all remember that? The hot sauce in my purse. Kamala Harris
she really came up to Power 105 with hot sauce.
Right? Kamala Harris says she wasn't even in college when Snoop Dogg's album came out, but she said she listened to Snoop Dogg and smoked weed in college, and she was in college like 8 years prior to Snoop Dogg's first album. So, like, things like that, say, like, I would think, I would kind of, you would like to give them we would all, right? Because we as black people, we're really nice. You know what I'm saying? We're really nice. We're really forgiving. We don't really have that kind of malicious. We don't have that kind of vibe. We want to think the best of people. We want to assume that people are doing the right thing. But I can't really say that, man, because they've proven. Bill Clinton get on the saxophone. You know what I mean? Like, just it's consistently. You know what I'm saying? It's a consistent kind of pandering there that happens over and over again. Not to say the Republicans are any better, because Trump had a bunch of black preachers and stuff like that running around, and I think he called some more black leaders, quote unquote, big quotes, this afternoon. So there's a lot of people using this as a way to jockey for position when it comes to us as black people.
I mean, but they pander to everybody. It's not just like we're not special. Like, they pander to every demographic they can think of. Regardless of party, they're going to pander, and they do it because it works. I don't care. Like, I'm still going to be looking for the meat and potatoes of the agenda, but more importantly, I'm going to scrutinize you if I don't see you acting on that agenda. So it gets on my nerves when people keep talking about, in terms of heading into an election, what these politicians are doing in order to get elected. Because honestly, none of that actually matters. This is just them talking in order to assume a position. So, like, when Diddy said that dumb stuff, in terms of withholding our vote if we don't see...
I don't think that was dumb.
Well, he was talking about them basically stating an agenda.
Yes.
That is asinine. I don't care what anybody says. What matters is what you're going to do, and you can't hold anybody accountable for something that even gotten a chance to do yet.
Yes, you can, because I could give you examples for LGBT. I could give you examples for illegal immigrants. I could give you consistent examples where specifically the Democratic Party has made promises to specific groups of people and passed legislation.
Well, but what I'm saying is, prior to them being elected, there's nothing to hold them accountable for. So it's what really matters is what happens once these people get into a position to do something. And that's what matters. And we flip where our energy is. Our energy is before they get elected rather than when they are.
No. It has to be before we get elected, because what happens is they say when we get in, we'll get to that, but, we got to go for re-election because, so we'll get to it. And they push it down to the next 4 years and then push it down to the next 4 years.
But that's what I'm saying. You can hold them accountable while they're in office, not before. So if they're up for re-election, at that point, if they haven't done anything for you, your vote is worth way more. Because now we actually have a history of you being in this position and not actually doing what you're saying or not actually doing something for us.
But we got 400 years of that with black people, with either political party, either Republicans or Democrats. We got 400 years of them not doing anything.
But at the same time, we're not holding them accountable for what they're actually not doing. We're holding them accountable before they get into office. So all of our energy.
I think we don't hold them accountable as all as the people.
Well,
I think we don't hold them accountable. Period.
Well, but part of that is just because a lot of people don't think that their vote actually has any weight. So they don't feel like there's actually a way to hold these politicians accountable. And to be honest, to be totally honest, in a lot of ways, in terms of state and federal elections, there really isn't. If we withhold our vote or give it to somebody else, it for the most part, it does not really matter just because of our numbers. On a local level, totally different story. Just because there are so many areas where there are a higher concentration of us, and our votes actually do count. Like if we're 60% of the population in a particular county, then whoever's running for office, they have to get our vote. They have to at that point. But on a state level, federal level, it's not as necessary. No. So holding them accountable is a little bit harder, but like we said with a whole lot of other stuff, it does come down to economics. We're not putting people in power in terms of our money. We may help put somebody in power because of our vote, but really counts is where they're getting their money from. And so we don't hit their pockets at all because we feel like we need whatever they're selling. And we do it over and over again, over and over and over again.
Deshaun, I would like to know your opinion on that, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, here's my take. I think that what Black people have done in the past in regards to politics, in regards to times when like election season comes up, is that we have somewhat like, we kind of like muddled our agendas in concert with the Democratic agenda. And the issue with that is that the Democratic agenda still involves a larger population of white people, of white voters, so of white Americans. So with that being said, we can't just like muddle our agendas in the Democratic Party and push for a Democratic leader just because they're Democratic. And that's the mistake we've made. So the piece where I slightly disagree with you, Kenny, is there does need to be some accountability ahead of time or some, I guess some promise of specific things that we need. I think what happens is we settle for what they promise. That's been the Democratic's desire and the Democratic's agenda. But where we've fallen short is that we get the short end of the stick. We've never attacked or have asked for a specific agenda from these politicians before going into office and demanding our vote or getting our vote or pandering for our vote. So I think where I sit on this is like, it's almost like a marriage. Like when I stated my vows at my wedding, it wasn't because I already did it and my wife was holding me accountable. I stated my vows and then she holds me accountable as we're married. You know what I'm saying? So like you wouldn't have no wedding where y'all don't give vows to each other. You wouldn't just jump in and say, I'm not going to hold you accountable until we're actually married. No, you actually say, hey, what are you going to do? And then, okay, now I can hold you accountable to that. I can go back to my wedding tape and say, hey, baby, you said you would do this. Here's the moment you're not doing this. I have something to hold you accountable to. So I think it's the same thing. With these politicians, it's like, yo, we got to tell them what we want. We want reallocated funds from police departments to more programs of public health, youth service, psychiatrists and social workers in these schools. We want to see a shift in how we work on group economics and how banks serve us and how easy it is to get housing, those things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we have to set up an agenda. So yes, we have to hold them accountable once they get voted in. But I'm not totally against saying, yo, what are you going to do for us? Not the whole Democratic Party, for the Black community. We are asking these 3 to 4 things. You know what I'm saying?
Marlon, you got something you want to add on, man?
I definitely do, man. Just know this: if you don't vote Democratic, you're not Black. Okay? If you don't vote Democratic, you're not Black. All right? And that right there tells you all you need to know about how they feel about our vote. It's a given. It's a shoo-in. What people need to start doing. So, I heard what Kenny was saying, in contrast to what you were saying, but we have so many years of proof of Democrats lying to Black people, right, and stealing the vote and making false and empty promises. There's a laundry list. you, Mr. Democrat, that are running in 2020, you got to pay for the sins of
your
those
past.
that came before you.
Yes.
You're lying. You're lying. And truth be told, if the Republicans were smart, they would hedge their bet a little bit and make some headway and some promises to black people. Like make some you don't have pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. All right, make some concessions, make some promises.
So, and I agree with both of y'all. There's no reason for us not to state what we want. There's no reason for us not to be specific, and there's no reason for us to give our votes away. There's no reason to do that. But I think that we really are keeping our expectations, I don't even want to say too high or too low, but just incorrect in terms of how politics work. Like, honestly, they're going to say anything that they feel like is going to get us to vote for them. And it doesn't matter who it is. And if we continue, well, if we start, let's say that, if we start being consistently specific about what we want, I think that people will start to actually see how much they really don't care about us. Because consistently we'll see other things maybe being done, but not specifically what we want. Just because there's a power structure that needs us to be in a particular place. So I don't care what people say prior to getting elected. I only care about what you're going to do. Matter of fact, don't even talk too much. It's just like any other time that you're around somebody, right? If somebody's telling you a whole bunch of stuff that they're going to do for you, it's going to start sounding sketchy. If they're trying to sell you something and they're telling you about all these different things they're going to do for you, it's going to start sounding sketchy. It's like, yo, my man, like, that's a pretty high bar you're setting by saying all these things that you're going to do for me. Now, granted, if you do them all, I will be proud to continue to patronize your service, or in this case, vote for you. But it's all talk, like all of it. It's all talk. And I can't deal with all this talking. I care more about what you actually do. And even before that, like, when you're dealing with people who are career politicians, meaning they've been in different offices for a very long time, I think that is enough to really get an idea of what someone would actually do. Now, we all know that politicians will change their tune as time goes on because demographics change and all of the other good stuff, right? We know that. However, if you really want me to support you, I'm not going to care about what you're telling me. I'm going to care about what I've seen you do. If you're going to do something different that goes against some of the stuff that may have not actually benefited us in the past, if you're going to do something different, then you're going to have to find a way to show us. Because talking about it is not enough. Like, you're doing that for everybody. When you talk about the disenfranchised and those who are in a different, in poverty, or you talk about immigrants or whatever, like whatever demographic there is, they want their vote. They're going to say whatever it is that they think that they want to hear to get them to vote for you. And it's just too much lip service. I don't care what you say. Show me. And I'm going to go with what you've done before.
Yeah, I think, well, I will say this in regards to the response, and I want to get Marlon's response. These candidates, whether they be at the local, state, federal level, whatever, they do put out their agenda. They put it out in writing, and they put specific legislation. They actually have this stuff out in writing as a part of their campaign. So, like, that's another thing. Like, we don't look at that, and when we do look at it, certain things in regards to the language, like as far as like documents and these requests that they're making, or these proposals that they're making, there's very specific language when it comes to everybody else. Like, if it's something that involves, a particular community, or something specific. When it comes to black people, and I want people to start reading a lot of these different, what these things call, like, Joe Biden has this lift every voice crap, or, whatever that joint is called, right? Where he says people of color. He says minority. White women are a minority, right? So, like, this is the kind of thing, like, we have to, like, get really politically educated, because we got to understand that there's a lot of trick language when it comes to politicians and the way they, like, when we hear people of color, we assume they're talking about us. When they say people of color, or when they say minority, it's going to be something completely different. But Marlon, I wanted you to kind of bounce back on the point you were making earlier.
Yeah, no. So basically, I was saying that Joe Biden was a prime example of black people giving the vote away when he went up to Hot 97 or Power 105 and said Charlemagne that if you don't vote Democratic, you're not black. Like, that's crazy. If you don't vote for me, you're not black. That's crazy. And black people all the time go to the polls and they just go Democrat right down the line, not knowing what people stand for, what they have done, like Kenny said, as far as like their history, what policies they stand for, or what changes they champion. And people have to stop doing that. They have to stop doing that. And the Democratic Party preys on that. They really, really do. They prey on the fact that black people just figure that Democrat is, if they're not super rich, they just figure that that's who they need to give their vote to. Now, I do think that there's opportunity for Republicans to hedge their bet and make some changes for black people, make some policies that'll be beneficial, and they can steal some votes. I think people's third eye is a little open more so now than ever, especially after Biden's comments, after what happened with, obviously the current state of things, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. People are like stepping back now and thinking. There's so much talk about go and vote, go and vote, go and vote. Like, I need people to not be so centralized on just Donald Trump and, the vitriol towards him, and more so, looking at what everyone is going to bring to the table and what their past includes. I think that black people need to start doing that. And when we start doing that, I think we may get a little bit more of what we want, not necessarily whole kit and caboodle, but just something else to have, to hold on to. Some other policy changes or some other things that we ask for. But right now, we're not getting anything because the vote it's a given.
It's a given.
It's already
Marlon, I had said something to a group of people that I know, and I said, if Donald Trump, and not this, he ain't doing this, but if Donald Trump said tomorrow, he said, I am going to sign a $14 trillion reparations bill for the descendants of slavery, the African descendants of slavery, or whatever, right? I asked, would you vote for him? You'd be shocked how many black people said, no, he's a racist. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely, completely asinine.
Joe Biden's racist.
Joe Biden, the man wrote the 3 strikes crime bill. He supported busing. Like, people don't really think, man. Like, it's not people don't think. People don't know. That's the biggest problem. We don't know. We have no clue. We think because he was with Obama that, he's super liberal. He's just as hard a right winger. He's a right winger, like, for real, to be honest. Like, if we're gonna be honest. But Kenny, what were you gonna say, brother?
So here is a big reason why Trump's presidency is so dangerous. Because right now it does not matter who the other candidate is. The focus is on getting Trump out of office, because he absolutely does not. That president, without even having a brain, we know that he is no good for anyone, and that makes this upcoming election more dangerous, because honestly, all you have to be is a little bit better than him, which could very well mean, now granted, Biden's at least recent history has been beneficial for us and others, at least some, but what makes it dangerous is because he really doesn't have to, if let's say Biden becomes president, like I think he will, there's really not a whole lot that he has to do for us, because we absolutely don't want Trump as a president, along with a ton of other people. As much as we're doing right now to see things change, and the way that we're doing it, we would have to continue to do the same thing even when Trump is not president. And I honestly don't think that's going to happen. I think that with Trump being gone and somebody else being a president, at that point, I mean, it could be literally a dog as president. At that point, black people are going to let their foot off the pedal a little bit, thinking that now because somebody else is in the driver's seat, that and because of the climate of how things were prior to the election, that things are going to be a little bit better, when in all actuality, they don't even have to be. This man just has to get in office. He just has to beat Trump. because we're all gonna be happy about it.
I got a prediction. Trump is not losing this election.
I don't believe that.
I agree.
Trump is not losing
I'm with Jay.
because Biden is
It
not.
hurts.
Biden is not. He is not getting the swing states. He's not
It
getting.
breaks my heart, man.
He's not getting the swing states.
Here's why Trump is going to lose. Because Trump has not gained any supporters since he became president. He's only lost them.
But
here's what I think is going to happen, though. I think Trump is going to do something prior to him losing, that he's going to do something that's going to be damn near permanent on this country because he's a spiteful little asshole. He's going to do something that we're going to have a hard time undoing just because he's no longer going to be president. Now, that does not mean that, for those who don't feel like voting, not go. Like, everyone still needs to go out and vote. But the reality of the situation is that Trump has not done one thing that has actually gained him a supporter. So logically, he gets his ass whooped in November. But
I don't think so, because on that debate stage, he's gonna smoke Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't even know what day of the week it is. He has no clue what day of the week it is.
You think Trump?
Yeah, Trump knows what day of the week it is.
But do you think
Trump is going to win the swing state?
Won't even answer the question.
He's going to win this debates. He's going to win all the swing states because they're flooded with white people. Our people are concentrated in particular areas, but that's not even it. Black people are not voting for Joe Biden. Watch. Black people are not going to vote for Joe Biden. Because there's a large, people don't understand this. There's a lot of people who think like me that are out here. A lot of black people who think like me, who are not picking between the lesser of two evils. We will just, if you want to give me a dog dookie sandwich and a horse dookie sandwich, I'm not gonna have a sandwich. I'll just starve to death because I'm not. I'll go get me a cheesecake or something else. I'll go make my own food.
Well, that's not an option though.
That is an option. We can make our own food. We could worry about ourselves as a community, which we need to do. Asian people have the least voter turnout out of any ethnic group, yet they have the most wealth, more than white men. So, yes, I believe voting is a strategy and it's a tactic. It's a part of what we need to be doing. It can be used to our benefit, and it also can be used to our detriment. Deshaun, what you got to say, brother? Don't worry, we're going to fix it.
Yeah, I figured. Listen, I actually have a question, to be honest. Like, for Kenny, I just want to, I want to ask you directly, going back to Jay's question, if Trump did something like that, right? Let's say he passes a bill, I don't know, whatever, trillions of dollars. It only goes to the black community, only goes to black people. We get direct reparations that we can now take our own money and do whatever we need to do. Do you vote for Joe Biden still to get Trump out of office?
If this is specifically what he's going to do, a reparations bill, then
right.
Then I can't. With his history, I can't do it. I can't vote for Trump because of one action, especially when I know that probably that action there's going to be something attached to it.
I mean, the taxes are going to go up, but that's
damn,
not.
man. I mean, outside of receiving money, a good amount, and if it's like the proposal that what's his name wrote, I forgot, where it's specific like $350,000 per person.
Yes, if it's like what Bob.
Yeah, there you go, him. Yeah.
Brother.
So I can't say that amount of I mean, that in all actuality is literally just buying you off. You can so imagine what black people won't do because they just got, I don't know, $250,000.
But that ain't got nothing to do with it. It's more because there's gonna be people who trick it off. Yeah.
No. But I'm saying, imagine what people okay. So we are at a particular station in this country, right? And the changes that are needed would not necessarily, they wouldn't happen just because a bunch of people received about $250,000. A bunch of black people received, like, that will help us financially, but ultimately it's going to help the economy more because there'll be a lot of black people getting out of debt. But ultimately that money they're going to get that money back. We can't say that getting that amount of money, especially from someone who's absolutely trying to hold us down, like, it's chess. He
So
may
you
only
think
have
he's-
another 4 years in
You
office.
think he's trying to hold us more down than any other politician that runs?
Most.
You think?
I mean,
you
Trump.
think-
We're talking about Trump, right?
yeah, we're talking about Trump.
Yes, I absolutely think
I got a
that
question now. What legislation has Trump passed that has directly harmed black people?
pretty much every economic.
No. Directly harmed black people.
So, what he's done with are you saying solely black people?
What has he done?
No. Are we saying solely black people? Because he's signed a lot that's hurt us. But are you asking?
No, I'm talking about what legislation has he specifically passed, right? What has he passed that has harmed black people? This is not a campaign for Trump.
Okay, so let's start. We can start with.
But I also.
I can name a few, but
I want to also talk about this. And what legislation has Joe Biden in his political history passed that has specifically harmed black people?
All right, so
Who's got more bodies is what I'm asking. Who's got more black bodies?
Who's got more black bodies?
Who's got more black
Well,
bodies?
Biden has more black bodies.
Okay.
But hold on. But Biden's bodies are old.
His bodies is still in prison right now.
I mean, what I'm saying, like in terms, his bodies are old. Like if he kept doing the same stuff, his body count would be like Attila the Hun or something like that.
He's got the numbers are staggering.
No, there's nothing good about what he did back then, right? There's nothing good. But like a lot of other politicians, he's gone a different direction. A good bit of it, it's something that would ultimately we'd benefit from. Trump, on the other hand, there are zero.
What?
And in terms of legislation, so we can talk affordable health care, Social Security, minimum wage, like everything.
That's not specifically black people.
No.
That hasn't harmed specifically black people.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, here's what I will say. No. Hold on.
It absolutely has.
Go ahead, Deshaun, what you saying?
Let me jump in because I do think I don't disagree that. Like, let me be clear. When I asked you that question, it wasn't like put you on blast or nothing.
No. I know I get it.
I don't disagree.
I'm good.
I don't disagree that Trump is toxic for our nation. I think there's something that he does that hurts black people that actually is not a policy. So let me be clear. I think his stance and his openness, even some of his tweets that are like laced with like
racist
terms that are so like nationalist and like pro-America that he doesn't realize how anti-black it is. It sets up a narrative for our country federally and both locally where other politicians who have these secret feelings are now creating policies in our communities that like hurt us. I would say his tax law has hurt us a ton. It does not hurt directly black people, but I think there are a lot of things that are worded and laced with racism.
Johnny,
It doesn't
Johnny hurt
directly, you know what I mean? I mean,
That tax bill ain't hurt me.
I'm talking the majority of, because I think when we talk about Black America, we're talking about the overwhelming inequity that we see in our economic advancement versus other races, in particular white America. And I think on a large scale, a lot of his tax bills have disproportionately hurt African Americans because they were left out of Trump's tax cuts. Like households like that received, I think only like, I got to look it up. I think it's like 5% of African American households that benefited from his like tax laws. You know what I'm saying? So I think there are certain things that hurt us, but I think there's also another toxicity that he brings that actually is not Bill. It's actually it's like an aura. It's like a narrative. It's like a thing that he makes the.
There's a certain energy he gets under people's skin.
Yeah,
he drives because what he does, man. He reveals the truth about America.
Yeah,
we got comfortable.
It's more dangerous.
Let's just be honest. We got comfortable. We had 8 years of a black president who didn't do anything for us. All he did was bring a bunch of Negroes up to the White House to dance and sing. Let's just be honest. We got comfortable. We believed that we were past racism. We believed we lived in a post-racial America while black bodies were piling up at the hands of the police, and we ignored it. And we didn't demand anything, and we got comfortable, and we assumed that everything was going to be okay because now we got a black man in the White House. But nothing changed. The same thing we did after the Civil Rights Bill with Lyndon B. Johnson signed. He called it, you know what he called that bill, right? He called it the nigger bill. He said, I'm going to have niggas voting Democrat for the next 50 years. That was the Voting Rights Act. There's a lot of different, and that's a Democrat. So there's a lot of different things that we have to put on ourselves in regards to the current situation we're in. I think the thing for us is now just like, one, I think, yes, we all should register to vote. I believe all black people should register to vote as independents, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, not as Green, Tea Party, any of that stuff, right? I think all black people should register to vote as independents. I think every black person should exercise their Second Amendment rights. Because, like, we have a lot of black people awake right now, and it's a good thing. But it's the next action items, right? Because, like, you know, I don't want our people, and, you know, even, like, we spend so much time in this podcast talking about voting, right? Because it's a big thing in our community. It's like going to church almost. It's a tradition. Hey, my grandmother did it, and my mom do it, and, you know, this is the thing we do every, you know, we go to church, you know, we have Thanksgiving dinner, and we vote. Like, that's what we do. Like, that's what black people do, you know what I mean? So, and we vote Democrat. That's what we do. That's what my family has always did, right? Every Easter, we like the same. It's like Easter, you know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing we do. You know, we walk around the same way. We take pictures with our Easter hats and Easter bonnets and, you know, these fluorescent dresses and garments. We do that when we go vote. We have the nice little pin and sticker, and we put on the show. But it's like, all right, well, hold on. Let's, like, you know, wake up a little bit and let's see, all right, what can we do besides that? We have gotten a lot done in the last week, and nobody went to the polls. So the answer is not necessarily just voting. It is it's a strategy. All these things are strategies. Strategies, you know, one is, you know, civil disobedience, you know, in the words of Martin Luther King, right? Next is, you know, growing the economy, right? Different things like that. So there's a lot of things that we can be doing aside from just the political or the political theater game, you know. So I guess, Marlon, you've been, you know, on the sidelines for a minute, man. Go ahead and, I guess, give us, you know, a little feedback on what you think about that, man.
About the lack of impact of what voting is. Okay, so pretty much, you know, from what you just said, the reason why voting is such a big deal is because it was something that we didn't have a right to previously. People fought for that and died for that. You know, so it's symbolic. It's very much so symbolic. So, I mean, it can move the needle, but it's not going to move the needle that much. You know, I think that, like you said, actionable items, movement that we've been having in the last 2-3 weeks that we haven't seen in decades can probably get more done than vote. Just an uprising, making things uncomfortable. Voting doesn't do that. What we need to continue to push is doing things that make people uncomfortable, hold people accountable, make them answer tough questions. Voting is not going to do that, but it's still important. It's still important. We shouldn't give away our vote like we have been. We still need to hold people's feet to the fire, you know. And then, you know, I think after we get elected, maybe that's when you start, you know, really getting close to them and saying, hey, what's going on? What's up with what you promised? You know, but yeah, voting is symbolic more so than effective or life-changing. This is my take.
Kenny, you got something you want to say?
So here's the one thing to think about when it comes to voting. There is a lot of evidence that when we don't have a voice, that people will really take advantage of it. Meaning that when we didn't have a vote, it was so much easier for them to have legislation, literal legislation that will hold us back. As far as like indentured servitude after slavery was over, Jim Crow laws, like they were actual laws. It's funny when younger people, when they think about civil rights and you tell them what Jim Crow laws were, they're like, wait, so those were actual laws? They were on the books, like legal laws? Like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. So let's just say for shits and giggles that the 13.4% that we occupy in this country, let's just say the whole 13.4% just decides not to vote. Then whatever politician is in power, whether it's the county, whether it's the state, or if it's the president, if somebody wants to introduce a bill that effectively says, all right, black people cannot make more than what 75% of what their white counterparts make.
They damn near do that now.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of an actual law. Like, it's understood, but on paper you can't do that. But if they wanted to make it a law, especially when we just cleared the path because we don't vote no more.
Can you think about this, though? I want you to think about this. If we were to do that, black people would have eliminated literally one part of the American government system. We would make the Democratic Party irrelevant. What Marlon is saying,
No.
to what he's saying, no, listen, because they cannot understand. It is mathematically impossible for the Democrats to beat the Republicans without the black vote. They thought the Latinos were going to replace us. That's what they were betting on. Mathematically, they cannot beat the Republicans. They cannot beat Trump this year without the black vote. But literally what happens, and that's the thing, and I want to talk about as far as making people uncomfortable. By doing that, if we were to do that, right, we're not going to do that because there's too many of us who aren't going to do that. But if we do that, we would literally eliminate one wing of government. But in regards to making people uncomfortable, and I like that statement that you made, Marlon, in regards to that, because all that has happened over the last week and a half has made the world uncomfortable. We have the world's attention, right? We have the world waiting like, what are the black people going to say? What are they going to do? What do they want, right? They're hoping that we actually go home and get out the streets. That's what they're hoping we do. They're trying to do all these different stall taxes. That's why they got town halls with Obama, town halls with Oprah, town halls with this idiot, town halls with this clown, right? Just to kind of get people to calm down. It's it's not indicative of all police. We didn't say that, but there most definitely needs to be something that's happened. So even in, for example, what we saw in Minnesota, where they asked the Minnesota mayor, "Are you going to defund police?" And they held his feet to the fire. They said, he's running for election, y'all, next year. That joint was comedy, right? And he said, "Are you going to defund police? Yes or no?" Gave him the mic. He said, "No, I'm not going to do that." They booed him out. They ran him out of that joint. Uncomfortable, right? Uncomfortable, right? So because there's another thing to think about, like politicians. How many politicians you see come walk into black neighborhoods, like literally just walk into black neighborhoods with no when it comes to the questions, right? They get asked at these different things, right? You got to think about a lot of these questions and things like that are scripted, right? Because it's a comfortable, it's an environment where they're comfortable, where they could be in their element. We as black people have the world's attention. We got to get comfortable making everyone uncomfortable. If black people are gonna be uncomfortable, damn it, everybody's got to be uncomfortable. If black people are going to be upset and profiled, damn it, everybody needs to be upset and profiled. Don't be scared to call people out on their racism. Don't be scared to call people out on their bigotry. Don't be scared to call these people out on their pandering. If it's been okay for the longest time for black people to be uncomfortable in this country, it's damn sure a good time to make everybody else feel that pain. You got cops. Did y'all see that video with the NYPD crying about being vilified? Could you imagine?
Yep, thugs and animals.
Imagine the audacity of that? Stop and frisk. Come on, man. Eric Garner, all these black men all the bodies in NYPD done got over the last 100 years, and you're gonna talk about you feel. It's comedy, bro.
I'm calling this animals
But
and thugs.
but that's the uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable. And look, all of a sudden, people want to change laws. All of a sudden, people want to go kneel and do all these different things. So y'all go ahead and talk about that, because that in itself, man, there's a lot of voting. I agree, Kenny, is important. It's a strategy. It's just as important to vote as it is to withhold your vote. These two, you come with the left or you come with the right. You know what I mean?
Give it power.
We need to be dictating the terms of engagement, not the other way around. We got to get used to dictating the terms of engagement when these politicians come to us. They want to come and they want to come to our church. Hold on, pastor. Wait a minute. Before he gets up there and talks about how he loves Jesus but only been to church once every 4 years, let me ask him a question. We need to start doing that. We need to start showing up to some of these meetings the same way black people went to Trump rallies and put Black Lives Matter and got up and nigga, go to Joe Biden's rally and ask him what he's gonna do for black people. Do the same thing. Ask him about the 3 strikes. Ask him about the crime bill.
So
Make them sweat.
withholding our vote is never going to change anything, because all they're going to do is just pivot. That's all they're going to do.
And that's
they're
what.
just going
But
to
I
pivot.
think it's a good thing.
Well, no, I mean
That could be a good thing because it'll wake black people the hell up and just show them, like, nigga, yeah.
So if they pivot, meaning they're just going to pander to somebody else to get votes, and you can't do it right now because they need our vote right now. We're too close to the election. But let's just say another 4 years from now, all they're going to do is just pander to other groups in order to win votes. It's just the strategy changes, and at that point, none of what they do is going to benefit us, because at this point they don't need us. They've already found. At one point, they didn't need us at all in the first place. We couldn't even vote anyway. We haven't even been able to vote for that long.
I study demographics.
All they're going to do is just pivot.
The white vote is split down the middle. The Latino vote is split down the middle. Asians, Indians don't vote because they get what they need to get regardless of whoever's in office.
So you change the demographics. What do you think they do? They will not keep the same strategy.
The demographics aren't going to change aggressively. All the stuff that they put in place to try and get rid of us hasn't worked. And white men's mortality rates are continuing to drop and drop. I watch this stuff. I pay attention to stuff. White men's mortality rates are in the negative. Nobody talks about that in the news. They are actually in the negative. More of them are dying off than are being born. So the demographics are trending the other way. So what I'm saying is that, and like I said, we got real caught up on voting, but it's not just it's not the fact of the voting in itself. It's just the idea that making the system uncomfortable is what we need to be doing, focusing on. So whatever makes the system uncomfortable, whatever they tell black people, do the opposite of what they tell black people to do in the mainstream media. It's that simple.
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Deshaun.
No, I think what needs to happen is, we need to put somebody in office. So to your point earlier, Kenny, what happens is we start losing accountability for that person once they get there, because we just assume they're going to remember their promises and keep them. We don't do enough of holding people's feet to the fire as a community, as one voice, as a unified voice. What we have now, we cannot take our foot off the gas. It cannot pivot into comfort. It cannot pivot into more civilly engaging conversations that don't make people uncomfortable. Discomfort is what's causing the rest of America to wake up. Discomfort is what's causing literally watching a man be lynched in a modern day lynching in what they thought was a post-racist society. Mm-hmm. That's what's causing America's eyes to open. The level of discomfort and exposure that has to happen for a lot of the police departments across this nation, for a lot of ways that funding is being put into communities, there needs to be exposure. There needs to be levels of discomfort. We cannot stop. So even if we put Joe Biden in office, the black community has to make him uncomfortable.
Yes.
We have to pull on our local leaders.
Yeah, man.
We have to pull on our local leaders when they're going to those Congress meetings and those town halls. They got to speak up, and we have to hold their feet to the fire. Don't come to my church. Don't come to my temple. Don't come to my community meeting if you're not going to answer questions about an agenda for us.
I agree.
And if you're not going to go up to Capitol Hill and speak for us. Because then we're going to come up there and make that place uncomfortable.
Yeah,
we can't take our foot off the gas. We have to have goals, and we've been uncomfortable for too long. Black America has been uncomfortable, can't breathe, everything hurts, hands up, don't shoot. Like, we've been uncomfortable for too long. Even with the Democrats, even putting Clinton in office and him crossing us and passing these ridiculous bills that over criminalize black men. Like, we can't. We've been uncomfortable for too long, and right now we're about to make everybody else uncomfortable.
That's what.
Don't be fooled by these town halls. Don't be fooled by police marching with people, taking knees with people. No. Y'all gonna be uncomfortable too when we put pressure on politicians to defund you and reallocate some of those funds. We're going to dismantle the whole thing, and that's the only way.
So here's my
discomfort.
question. Here's my question, because I agree. My problem is that we're not gonna keep doing what we're doing.
Well, I believe before you answer, I believe there is a segment of the black population who is talking about these things and is thinking the same exact thing. Matter of fact, not that I think, because I talk to these people. There is a significant. It's not the whole 13%, because it's not going to happen. I mean, you can't get. There's some people that's going to get left behind. Marcus Garvey. I love this quote. He said, "There are some Africans who are useless in America. Why would I bring them to Africa?" It's the same kind of deal. So it doesn't need to be all of us who are on this kind of mindset. Not just when it comes to the voting, because that's just a part. It's just a small smidget on the agenda. There's a lot of different things, but the idea that we are going to rattle the system. But go ahead, Kenny.
Everything that we've talked about are things that we absolutely have to do. But we get to a point where we start to bank on certain things that are just very small parts of what actually creates change. Now, for us in this country, the only thing that's going to really, really create change is once we have some kind of value. And when I mean value, I mean where they cannot do without us. The only reason that there's anything actually changing today in terms of these little tiny small steps that these different cities, counties, even some federal legislation and whatnot, the only reason that we're seeing any change is because they don't know how to actually stop the unrest. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And something like that isn't sustainable. We can do it for a very long time. And I hope to God that we can keep the unrest up, but it's not sustainable. And the sooner that we can figure out a way where we create some kind of value in this country where we are undeniable, that's when we'll actually see long-term change. We'll see what's normal and what's acceptable actually change. So whatever, we have so much that's ingrained in this country right now, that can change once we get to a position, or we position ourselves to be undeniable, to be valuable. Right now, we are not. We're valuable in certain areas, but to be honest, if someone wants to continue to hold us down, they'll pivot away from that. Just say, you know what? Let's just find another way.
Yeah.
You
that's
know
what
I
they're
mean?
doing, and that's what they're doing.
Until we have value. When we have value, you can't do anything different because you need us.
Yeah, the thing is, Kenny, is that, and Marlon, you saw Dr. Cloud Anderson's interview on the Breakfast Club. Did you see it?
No, actually, I did not see his interview.
And he said in regards to, he said something, for y'all who did see it and people who listened who did see it, he said something,
I saw it.
Black people are the only people on the planet who don't produce anything but sweat. And to your point, Kenny, value. We need to be able to produce nothing, not rap songs, not videos, that's not producing. We don't own it. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. But we don't. That's not what we're talking. Because
here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. How about we do produce? How about we do produce value? How about we do add value, but it is not considered valuable. It's not embraced.
Give an example.
We produce value. So like just black men in corporate America, right? There's a lot of qualified, smart, intelligent black men who get overlooked for high-level management, VP, president positions because they're black. I personally watched unqualified white men and women get promoted just because of, they're friends of friends. Their dad friends with the president.
But why?
Or
how about we
CRO,
bypass that?
No, hold on. No, I'm just giving you an example of, we have talented people in different realms and fields outside of basketball, entertainment, music. We have it, but it is not. They pigeonhole us on those side of things because they don't want us. They don't want it to be 50-50 in an office, black and white. They don't want that. So it's not because we're not valuable. I think that the value we're not giving our just due oftentimes. So how do we change that? I think that might be one of the true issues is how do we get our value to be valued, and that's something that I'm actually working with a group of people about right now, in just corporate America. Starting to let's start again, feet to the fire. I mean, we've said it a bunch of times already tonight. Like we need some accountability. We need it to stop. It has to stop being where Jill's dad went to school with, or is a frat brother with, the CEO, so she gets a job entry level for fresh out of school. By the time you turn around and she's 28, she's upper management. We don't get those opportunities. We get overlooked. So it's not that we're not qualified. We're behind the 8 ball, and we need some policies, some tactics, some checks and balances in different fields and different, worlds and realms, so that we can balance this thing back out. Because white people are not smarter than black people.
No, they're not.
They just not.
No,
they're not.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I want to.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Deshaun.
my fault, Mark.
No, go ahead, Marlon. You were finishing your statement.
I'm good. Just Deshaun could go.
No, I just wanted to speak a little bit to the unrest that Kenny was bringing up. And first of all, I agree with Marlo, but I also think that, like, in addition to finding our value, the unrest doesn't always have to look like marching through the streets. And I think there are ways to be civilly disobedient that does not mean. I agree with you. Protests will not be sustainable. I think it's sustainable now because
nobody's
right
working.
Now we have the whole nobody's working. This pandemic has a lot of people home, right? So it's shifting people's schedules. Some people who are working from home, they have a little more flexibility. There's more logistical reasons why it seems to be working. It will not be sustainable when the curve flattens and things like that, right? But there are ways to bring unrest that I think we don't utilize. And when I say holding politicians' feet to the fire, I mean making our presence more known in higher numbers at these town halls. I mean calling or showing up to politicians' office. I think there's just other ways to hold politicians accountable and bring about unrest that don't always look like marching, right? Like, I think the city, as we know, as I already said, the pandemic is keeping people at home. So there's a reason a lot of people are able to support. Even people that are working remotely, they have a little bit of flexibility with their schedules and things.
Yeah.
So that's why we see these numbers so high. But in addition, I just think that there are other ways we can show up to town halls. We can show up to politicians' office. We can overload them with calls, and if we have a concerted effort, we have to start doing these things and demanding things and challenging them, and don't let up. I think the issue is that people are going to get tired, especially our allies. They're going to get tired because they're not used to being
They're not used to
vilified.
fighting.
They ain't used to it. Look at the police department. George O'Meara said earlier, treating us like animals and thugs over 2 weeks of criticism.
2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks, man.
Imagine centuries of it, bro. Centuries of it. So I think you will see people phase out, but that's okay. Because there are brilliant people still on the front line. And then to Marlo's point, and I'm going to shut up after this, but to Marlo's point, I think that what needs to happen for us to find value is that, there needs to be, now we need to pivot to more concentrated efforts.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, I was at a march that I had to rap at over the weekend. A couple of days ago, for a group called Educators for Justice. Shout out to Educators for Justice. Shout out to my bro Tariq Lane. So they're protesting, and their goal is to get more funding into schools so that we can have more social workers and therapists in schools that have Black and brown children, so that we could have more mental health support, more programming in schools that have Black and brown children. You already are going to probably bring the crime rates down, right? They have a specific goal. Now people in their specialties have to start gearing their energy towards not just general protests, but we actually specialize in bail. We actually specialize in legal defense and support. We actually specialize in banking. We actually, right? People have to start rising up in their specialties, in their craft, and start developing their tribe for that. And then that's how it sounds easier said than done, but you get my point.
Yeah, I think what Kenny and Marlon were saying in regards to the value, I think we need to create the value. they've only, and it's not going to change. There's nothing we can, my thing is, there's nothing we can do to change the way this society views us by trying to assimilate with the system. That's just my stance, right? If we want to be viewed as people of value, we have to create the value. We have to, there's a lot of intelligent brothers that are, getting passed up for particular positions in corporate America and different things like that. Well, shoot, there's a lot of brothers that get passed up. Well, let's, all those brothers, how about y'all get together? Y'all been around the business long enough. Y'all been around the corporation long enough. You know how the joint runs. You know what works. You probably work the hardest at anybody in that building. Y'all get together, right? You know what I mean? We got all these black millionaires, in entertainment, sports. Let's get a bank. Let's get a hospital. Let's get a school. Let's produce. Let's be producers versus consumers. We consume more than any other people in this country. We buy everything. We make people millionaires and billionaires that don't look like us. I think it's time that we started focusing on doing that for ourselves and for our own community. So, and it takes discipline, and not everybody's going to do it. We already know that. But the intelligent black society will do it, and that's what we got to really focus on. But Kenny, you had something you want to say?
Let me kind of give you an idea of what I mean by making ourselves valuable. So we have to be able to provide something that, one, makes us needed, meaning that you cannot get whatever this is from anywhere else besides us. Number two, we have to also make sure that they can't take it or destroy it, because that's what's happened before. When we've created something, and in most cases it was, we created something that made it so that we didn't need them. They would destroy it so that we would need them again. We have to go beyond that. We need to create something that they need and that they can't take and that they can't destroy. And when I say that they can't destroy it, means they have no other ways of producing this besides getting it from us. It's the same reason why countries don't go to war with each other, because they both provide each other things that they both need that they can't get from somewhere else. So that's what I mean by creating value. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it is not anything that has to deal with an occupation. I can tell you that up front. Because as you both said, as everyone has said, we watch black men who are more talented and more qualified at these high positions get looked over for another person because they're actually comfortable with someone who's not as good as you running the company. It kind of tells you a whole lot, right? They're comfortable with not performing at a higher level just so they can keep it white. So we have to figure out, and I don't have the answers. I don't know how we do this, but we have to figure out something that we produce, and we're the only place you can get it from, us. And you can't take it, and you can't destroy us based on the fact that you can't get this anywhere else. We don't have that. And it would be great to create stuff again that just benefited us, but we all know how that goes. We create it, it benefits just us. We don't need them anymore for this particular thing and this particular thing and this thing, and they destroy it. So we have to make ourselves indestructible by creating something that you cannot do without, and you can only get it from us. And at that point, we have all the power in the world. Like, you can't even negotiate. The terms are ours. We just have to figure out, how do we get there, and how do we do that here? Because we already have the deck stacked against us. So how do we do that? And I kind of don't want to say this one part on air because it should be a secret. But what if there was a black power structure that operated in the shadows? What if these people who would seem to be powerful but sing and dance and whatnot, but what if that person and a whole bunch of others did have something going on in the shadows that nobody else knew about that benefited us? I hate to say that because somebody else could literally hear this and say, well, I hope no shit like that happens.
Well, there's nothing you could do about it. But I think that every group of people has that, and it is necessary. There's people. You got the warrior class. You got the people out there who's tearing stuff up. You know what I mean? Regardless of what you feel or think about it, you got the people the young, vibrant cats with the energy. You got the Bloods, the Crips. You got the Vice Lords, the GDs. You got them, and they're out here, and they if they wanted to, they could put in that work, right? You got, people who have different roles. You got the money people. You know what I mean? You got you got the lawyers and to get the people out of jail after they done tore everything up. Like everybody has a role. Then you got the voices. You got the mouthpieces. You got the black media, right? So there's different roles. There's different roles for everyone. I agree, Kenny, in that regard. Like we need money people. A lot of our money people are coons and sellouts and bucks and and idiots and nimrods. But we do need them. You know what I mean? So if we have them, or if there are any listening, shoot, man, let's get this thing going because the time is now. We got these bad guys on the ropes. We got them on the ropes. Look at all what they're doing. They're crying. They're complaining. They're kneeling. They're wearing kente cloths and kufis. This is the attention. We got the attention of the world right now. And now is not the time to get comfortable. Now is not the time to celebrate. There is a revolution going on. And revolutions cost money too. You got to be able to fund the revolution. What do you think America does every time when they want to take over a country and get their resources? And the quote unquote civil wars that break out all over Africa and these different Middle East and different parts. You think these are like legitimate civil wars? This stuff is manufactured. So the same way, the United States goes around and funds all these different uprisings, we got to be able to fund our own uprising. We're gonna close out here. Brothers, give some of your last thoughts. I'll go with Marlon first, brother. Go ahead, man.
I think my last thought in regards to this topic right now and tonight is just to keep on and stay positive, right? The answer, this is such a complex and difficult task. This is the undertaking of all undertakings. Yes, protesting will slow down. Yeah, but be a voice, be a light, okay? Be a fuse, be a spark. Continue to be that. Do not let the decreasing of the momentum stop you as a person. Because if everyone were to take that up, we could still get this thing going strong and get it going in a positive direction. But I already see people saying, so people are not posting that much about Black Lives Matter no more. We don't need that energy. Mm-hmm. That energy is, that is foam on a fire. We don't need that. We don't need that. Stay strong, stay positive, do what you can, spread what you can as an individual. Everyone be responsible for themselves to keep this going as much as they can.
Appreciate it. Kenny, you got something?
I just encourage people to keep going, but don't settle. Like, watch for the sleight of hand or the bait and switch, because we think that we're getting things to change and we think that we're tearing down the system, when without the power that we think that we have, they just put another system in place. And we don't see it until we start to see at some point that it doesn't work for us. So our fight has to be much deeper than what we're seeing happening today. It has to be related to everything that's happened and what we can anticipate happening in the future. And that goes to, we're talking about priorities and the things that we know that we need in this country outside of equality. So I would just encourage people to think bigger and to not settle for things simply just changing. Watch for what they change it to.
That's a good point, bro. Deshaun, man, you go ahead, bro.
My final words are actually more of a call to action. I want to challenge all of the brothers and even sisters who may join in on this conversation. If you follow this podcast, if you listen to us regularly, we challenge y'all to reach out, man. Reach out to us. If you are a specialist in your field, if you understand what we mean about collaborative and group economics and group thinking and group strategizing, and you're one of those people that are not down to like lose energy and lose sight of the mission, we calling on you. Reach out to us via social media or whatever platforms, but we want to collaborate. We want to bring as many minds that think like this And I'm trying to figure out how can we use all this black brilliance? How can we use all this black talent? How can we use all this black money and come together and use these skill sets? So, listen, reach out, link us. We want to be able to push this thing forward and talk the same language as the people. So, God bless.
Yeah, I think that was well said. Appreciate y'all fellas, man. All the people out there, man. Make sure y'all go back, listen to all these episodes. There's a lot of. This is about black empowerment, man. For the what century? In the 21st century, man. This is what we are here to do. This is what we're here to promote. We're here to promote black love, black cohesiveness, black empowerment. So appreciate y'all fellas. Appreciate the conversation. This was very insightful. A lot of stuff people could dive in and pick from. And make sure y'all people out there share this with your friends, your family. Have these conversations with each other.
Yes.
And let's do something. Keep your foot on these jokers' necks, man. Seriously. I ain't never seen people run. I ain't never seen white supremacists so scared in my life, man. This is a beautiful thing to see, and this is just the beginning. This is the beginning of the beginning. We ain't near the finish line yet, and we in this for the long haul. We got to be in this for the long haul. So, intelligent black society, man. Now is the time to mobilize. Now is the time to get together and make things happen. But fellas, thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all. We got one more parts of these, but this was beautiful. Y'all intelligence, y'all commentary on these matters has been a breath of fresh air. Because sometimes I be feeling like I'm crazy, so I know I'm not crazy. I know there's people who have the right mind, and let's keep this up, family. So God bless everybody out there. Black first, black first. Peace.
Peace.